Hi, I'm Singh. Welcome to the Value Creation Mindset, the podcast that explores the principles behind the decisions successful business leaders make to create value for their customers and themselves. Today, I'm joined by Eyal Katz, the CIO of Priority Software, and a serial product builder and entrepreneur who has built commercial products, platforms, and companies over the years. Eyal, welcome.
Hi, nice to be here. And it's a real pleasure.
Thanks. As Stephen Covey says, begin with the end in mind. And I like to kind of explore the beginning and the end of everyone's journey. We both earned our gray hair, seen quite a bit, but tell me something, being in software, working with computers, writing code, there's a certain electricity to it that you learn when you're very young. What's unique about it is you can have an idea, a thought, you see a problem, you can imagine a solution, and you can build something with your own hands, sometimes in minutes, sometimes in hours, sometimes in days, sometimes in years, but you can see it from start to finish, and you can see how it works. You can see the result. You can feel that the value being created. It feels like electricity. And every engineer and developer I've ever met knows what I'm talking about. I when did you first feel that?
Um, well, we're talking a long time ago. So I try to remember. I think the moment someone told me, "Hey, I have this problem. Do you think you can solve it?" And I said, "Yeah, why not? Let's give it a try." And then I sat, behind the computer and said, "Okay, let's figure out how." At the end of the day, I'm trying to see how I can bring value. And I said, first of all, first rule, always say yes. And the other rule, failure is not an option. So those are
Okay.
like kind of my guideline.
Those are
And
the two bounding boxes there.
ex- exactly. So so the moment I got this challenge, and then and you have to you have this enthusiasm that catches up with you, and you have to always reflect it to your customer or the people you're working with,
Yeah,
and bring him to be part of it. And the moment they're part of it, you have this electricity in there. It's not you're like it's contagious. Everybody's into it. And then once you solve the problem, and you have this programming tools, you have the ability to solve a problem. You have this satisfaction, and you see everybody's looking up to you and telling you like, "Hey, he's a genius. How did he do that? How did he do that? Look, he solved the problem." And it's this is like the energy, the electricity, it's all around you. And once you have you have this programming skills you build up, and
sure.
I mean, you go around meeting customers, meeting companies, and it's like so you feel like, hey, I can solve everything, everybody's problem. I can solve the software with the software. Back then, I mean, there's no AI, so you had to basically program everything. But always, I was like, I really believe in on the job training. You know,
For
say,
sure.
can you solve this? Can you solve it? Sure, no problem. The moment
So
I got,
it's interesting where always say yes, because my first job out of college, I was working as a manufacturing engineer at Motorola. I have a master's in mechanical engineering, of all things. And I got a reputation for sitting in the staff meeting, and someone would talk about a particular problem, and I'd always raise my hand. Hey, I can fix that. I can do that. And we all pay our dues, and it got to be a little of a grind because the answer is okay. Great, you own that. I need it done by next week. And I was like, oh, damn it. Now I'm working 60, 70 hours a week. But again, when you're in your 20s, you're paying your dues. And I don't know, I started out as just a manufacturing engineer in charge of a production line. And I learned a lot of manufacturing. I mean, when you're building real physical products, that if you get something wrong, they're going to cause a fire, which was a concern back in the day. With software, it's a little bit different. It shouldn't be, because you're still building products, not just software. And I think sometimes engineers, well, it's more developers than engineers or coders. Anybody who's like, everyone feels this electricity. You want to solve it, right? You always say yes because your mind's always spinning, and you see an opportunity to do something more efficiently or save other people time or save you time. That's the energy, that's the passion that I think some of us have. And you're also right. Other people see that, right? It's a little infectious, but you have to temper it a little bit so that you have a little more predictability. And over the years, we learn either the easy way or the hard way. And for me, it was definitely the hard way. Kind of what you have to do to harness that and to scale it, because there's only so much we can do ourselves, right? I mean, sure, we have AI now that can help a single person do amazing things as long as you know what they're doing. I mean, that's still a requirement. But talk to me about what issues did you run into when you built on that success and you kept saying yes, and you took on larger and larger challenges? How did you pick the people who you surrounded yourself with? How much control did you have over that? Or were you just given a team? How did you struggle with that?
Well, everything's a challenge, especially people.
Oh my goodness, yes.
So I think it was like everything, trial and error. I was like, first of all, as you said, there's like this way of, you're having this project and you're getting more projects, and you said, okay, I can't be any more a one man show. I have to hire programmers to do the job, and then you have to find people that are really self sufficient and they can think out of the box. So I had a lot of programmers, and but it's a trial and error. Someone can make a great impression in the interview, but
Okay.
he knows everything. He knows, from the academic point of view, he knows everything. People know everything, but then when it comes to be practical and solve a real problem, he gets stuck. It's like he freezes out, and you can't. So I had a lot of people come to work with me, and I changed a lot until I found this group of people that think the way I think. At the end of the day, you need to complete one another. It's like a marriage in some sort of way, because at the end of the day, it's people you're with them a lot, and most of the problems, where are being solved. I know in the coffee break, in I know when you eat supper. So, so this is the people. You have to be comfortable with the people you hire. You have to be, you have to be in the same state of mind, and then it's like things that in corporates you have like this product team and documentation and R&D and everything. It takes, I don't know, hundreds of meetings to generate something. Here, you can think about it. You can, if you're in the same vibe, meet someone in the on the coffee break, and he said, hey, look, let's solve this, let's solve it. And we meet after a few hours. Okay, I already did this, I already did that. Let's combine the things together, and that's it. A product was born. And so yeah, it's this is the way I used to work. I mean, this is what
Well,
the back in the days when I still did projects
yeah,
before.
projects very different than products, completely
Hmm.
different. No, I you're absolutely right. It's like the root of an idea, a concept, a solution can come to you in moments. You or uh, uh, a couple of your close colleagues, maybe you are kicking it around. You've been working on something, so you have something in your head. You can see it. That's what needs to be done. Trying to express that to other team members, get everybody on the same page, moving in the same direction. little bit of a challenge. How which different sort of methodologies did you play with or toy with? How did you try to add structure to what you were doing to help you and your team be more effective?
Well, it really depends on which phase, because it was, as I said, totally different when we're doing projects and then doing products and then doing platforms. So it's like, so I mean,
Let's
it
do
each
the commercial space. So products, I mean, things that are going to generate
mm,
revenue, products and
mm.
platforms. So in that particular mindset, because that's my sole focus.
So I think when we went to the product space, and again, it was learning curve. We had no guidance how to do things right. It was more of gut feelings. So we created our own ways of handling the effort. So it started out with like trying to figure out who's doing what and how to collaborate. Starting looking out at what solutions are out there of managing code and source. Uh, and back in the days, there weren't too many options. I mean, you usually had like I don't know, Microsoft went with we used Microsoft
Visual
tools.
first.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was that how was it called? Team something.
Oh,
It,
yeah.
s- Team
I use
Foundation something. Yeah,
Team Foundation Server, TFS. That's what
yeah,
they call it.
exactly,
And that was a successor to Visual Source Safe, which
exactly.
yeah, no. So
Uh,
so I grew up there. Sure.
but I think the way I work until today is most of the time we're not like sitting planning and then after a few weeks or month coming out with the solution and then people see it the first time. We are very agile. So we even back then we're like create something and throw it into the waters. Give the customers try to experience it, get the feedback, and keep up evolving and evolving. So at the end of the day, I think it was a lot of. I mean, we didn't know what it was waterfall, what was agile. We didn't know all this, methodologies of how to create a product. It was more gut feeling. It was
Well, I
pure.
mean, look, I totally get that because again, if you're that close to the wire, you can feel. Look, you know when you're creating value and when you're not. You can feel it. You know when you're hooking up your tires, getting traction, or just spinning your wheels. And sometimes you got to try one thing and try another thing. And over the years, a lot of these concepts come and go. They have different names, but they're the same things, just kind of repackaged. So on one side, you've got just extremely agile, which is a bit of a euphemism. I was talking to an engineer a few years ago. He was working on firmware for an IoT product, and we were handling all of the backend platform stuff. So I was talking to this guy. He was based in the he was based in the UK. At that point, it was a one or two man show, which is all good. But as we were talking to him, I asked him, what methodology are you using? I know this might be you, but what's your mindset? What do how are you approaching this? And he said, oh, I'm extremely agile. And I said, so you mean you're just making it up as you go along? Because even if it's just a one person show, it's still that person's responsibility to bring some kind of structure to what you're doing and some kind of discipline to what you're doing. But I and then on the other extreme, you've got the classic waterfall. Spend 6 months in design, and by the time the design is done, the market has moved on. That's not what they need anymore. So, like with most things, is
Especially today. I mean, today with the changes in I mean, I've done this last 2 weeks things that would take years. I'm telling you, years. I created like 4 different products that I like. I had something that was written a while ago. This system that connects Outlook and the file system to our ERP, and I had to, and I wanted to write it, and I had like 3 front ends. Outlook client, Gmail client, and an administrative. And I said generated to multi-tenant, converted from Microsoft .NET C# to Python backends. And I mean, I pushed it compile it to a container and push it to the cloud. I did things that would take months or years just to understand these concepts. And I mean,
Well,
this is just one of the things. And I realize other stuff, that like in the whole realm of AI, the MCP concept. I understand it, this week that people got it wrong, and that there's a a big problem over there. It's like I'm calling it the double dipping problem, because you
well,
have
well,
like,
um, would you explain what MCP is, and then get into this?
yeah. So MCP is it's by Anthropic. It's they started a year ago. It's what we call Model Context Protocol. It's kind of giving you an API layer for AI. So the moment you have this ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini that wants to call your service, so the way you do it, besides giving it an API layer, a backend layer,
Right.
you're surrounding it with this MCP layer that gives the ability for an LLM, for a large language module, to talk to your API, so-called, to talk to your tools. And the thing I figured out, for example,
Mm-hmm.
that at the end of the day, this MCP it's an LLM. That it's MCP client is an LLM, and the other side you have your, let's say, reasoning module. So
Mm-hmm.
why I'm calling it double handling, because at the end of the day, I created like this knowledge base that you can query. So I'm already building the answer to you, and I'm giving it back to this MCP client, ChatGPT or whatever,
Sure.
that again takes your answer and retries to build it how he thinks is fitted for the user's query. So that's why I'm calling it double handling. So you're losing. I mean, it's costly, and you're losing a lot of time because you're building the answer back on your
You're
on
not
your
you're not just losing time.
and
You
money.
are look. This is in engineering what you call a tolerance stack up.
Hmm.
None of these things are perfectly accurate. Neither are human beings. But the if your accuracy on one side is 90% and the accuracy on the other side is 90%, you put them together, your accuracy is less than that. So or the overall plus minus doubles. Everything stacks up. So that's a very interesting finding. I mean, this is part of the whole agentic model fundamentally,
Hmm.
to kind of build a core service, make it findable, make it easy for other agents to access data and services that you are providing. And at this point, I mean, LLMs have been commoditized. They're everywhere. You can scale them up, you can scale them down. They are running on tiny little IoT edge devices doing really amazing things. And they're running in NASA data centers in the pursuit of AGI. So, I don't know, on on that front, in this kind of swimming in this mix and driven by this kind of this electricity, which I can feel it coming through all of this tech here. I can see how excited you are uh, about this. What are, say, the 2 or 3 biggest lessons you've learned recently about how best to think about LLMs and these various AI models and this new infrastructure? What's the right way to think about it? What's the analogies that you use to understand it better? What can help get people past that initial fear curve and into actually utilizing it effectively? It's not just a promise, but the reality. I mean, so if you could talk about that, that'd be great.
So first of all, there's no secret sauce. I don't believe there's no single answer, a single
Wait, I thought you
way
were
of.
the secret sauce.
Not yet. So the thing is, what I believe in, at least in the for enterprise, the biggest problem with I think with AI is that it's probabilistic. It's not. It's, as I said, it could be 90%, but it's not 100%. And what I'm trying to do is to get gain trust and let people see that it's giving them always the precise answer and not 90% of the time, because 10% of the time, if it's not a good answer, it depends. If it's on tabular data, I can take a decision that is based on something that is finance decision.
Mm-hmm.
It could go sideways pretty fast.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to do is, first of all, work, as I said, from the beginning, work with people, find the problem, and from there build the solution. Then I'm leaning to try to do everything deterministic. What I'm trying to do is, everybody's building agents, and I'm saying, no, this is not the way, because again, you're going to get the agent to 90%, but what happens with the 10%? So now what I'm trying to do is convert everything to be more deterministic. I'm using AI
Mm-hmm.
for building the structure. And this is another thing I did this week. I created the system that interviews you. I say I have a goal. I want to, I don't know, do an onboarding for a customer, onboarding for suppliers, onboarding for a new employee. So I created the system that interviews you, and and even building a prompt today is complicated. So you're
Oh,
not
sure.
building a prompt. I'm actually interviewing you, and I'm asking you a question, and by the answer, I'm kind of figuring out what to be the next, what will be the next question, and then I'm building this plan, and this plan is a deterministic plan of scripts or code that needs to be run. And this plan is built from, it's actually four types of plan. I'm building the business prompt, what you want to do, how it's going to achieve it. And this is very detailed. And this is just from a few questions. And then I'm building this validation plan, what it needs to validate. Then data gathering plan, what kind of data it needs to gather from the systems, and then an execution plan. But everything on the plans is deterministic. No AI is building the plan is with AI. Running the plan is executing code. And I did what we call human in the loop. So what is human in the loop? Each time I hit a problem, I'm asking you, you're the expertise. The person is in charge. I'm asking you, how do I solve the problem? And you just write in free text, oh, you need to do this or you need to do that. And this will regenerate the plan. So again, AI is there for generating the plans. It's there for handling the problems, and it's there for learning from multiple use cases that you generated kind of fixes how to generate this main prompt that is the interviewer prompt. So
No, I
at the end of the day, you get again AI that is with you, but
right.
for the repetitive work, it's deterministic.
I think that is a phenomenal insight. I um I was talking to one of my best friends who works at Google, also a mechanical engineer, but he stayed a mechanical engineer. I kind of left them. I been in the software space, and he's following much the same idea, meaning use AI to generate a starting point code base. And now your interview style mechanism is really fascinating to me because you are concentrating each of these decisions into questions prompting someone. The use the probabilistic model to build a deterministic engine
Exactly.
validated by an actual real live human being who knows rules and policies, and so there's hope for us yet. We're not obsolete, not quite yet. And
For
that
sure.
is no, that pattern makes total sense to me as a way of extracting huge value out of AI.
And the
And
biggest problem is that
hmm,
everybody is going the wrong way. Everybody is building agents and sub agents and letting the agents build. And each time think about it. Each time it's regenerating everything. It's trying. It could work 90% of the time, but what happens in 10% of the time? And I'm saying
well,
it's kind of
all this
mm,
needs is more GPUs and more
mm,
tokens. It's an excellent business model for
for
yeah, for
the
for
AI companies. Yeah.
yeah. No,
The-
I mean, I
mm,
when software went into the SaaS space, everybody wants a subscription. Everyone wants recurring revenue. That drives increased multiples when you exit, and makes sense. And effectively, the software space copied the financial model of the cable companies and the cell phone providers, the most loved companies on the planet, right? But I at the same time, though, I like it as long as there isn't a long-term lock-in, or the lock-in is because you're delivering intrinsic value to your customers. The this look, if you're an engineer, if you're a developer out there, and many of them are scared of AI. Many of them are, well, hey, this is going to rip with this is going to replace me. And I got this feedback, we've been at this now for 26 years. When we built version 1 of our tech platform, which, again, we've been in the code generation, the model-driven automation space for this entire time, and we continue to be. But when I would go out and do demos 20, 25 years ago, where we could generate huge amount of code in a fully deterministic way, in a completely trustworthy way, which that hasn't changed. Right now, we are doing this now. We're at about 80 to 85% on that. But people would freak out, saying, "This is going to replace me." And my comment was always that no, it's not. Listen, it's your job to create as much value as you can for your customers, for your company, for yourself, for your family. It all flows. So if you can, it's like, it's a little bit of an analogy, but I think it still fits. Before the world of power tools, if your job was to put screws in things, you had to do it by hand. AI comes along, and now all of a sudden you have a power screwdriver. Now you can drive screws faster and more reliably than ever before. You might be 4, 5, 6 times as productive. Now, it's not going to tell you where to put the screws. It's not going to tell you where not to put the screws. You can ask it, but you're asking for kind of trouble there. But seeing it as a force multiplier that increases the value that you as an individual can bring to your business, or a force multiplier that, if applied correctly, can help you and your company and your colleagues punch above their weight class. That's more job security, not less. So this kind of, it's no different, is it, than the fear of robots in manufacturing? Right? Oh no, I'm going to be put out of work. It's like, look, things are going to change, but there's something called human progress here. Mm-hmm. When is it good to be less efficient? So when I hear galaxy brains like Andrew Yang speak out against automation, like it's an evil thing. So what that tells me is, all right, you've got to get from one point to another. There are 2 possible paths, one which is more efficient, less costly, right? And if it gets you to the same point, why would you not choose that? Right? And there are some people who call them Luddites. I'm not really sure what, but they're dead set against that improvement in efficiency. And I don't know, I have like a viscerally negative reaction to any of that stuff.
Yeah, I think today, first of all, the job, the way we work with the way we consume data is changing, and changing rapidly. First of all, everybody's afraid of change. So you have to learn new skills if you want to be, to take advantage of this huge tools that are out there to make your job much more efficient. You need new skills. Think about it. First, you have to be an expert on the in the space you're working, and then you have to learn I don't know, what kind of software tools to use to get to where you want to get to by, learning multiple screens and learning, I don't know, how to program them. And you have to be like a sophisticated user, or maybe some coding expertise or whatever. Now everything is becoming conversational. So you need to know how to ask the right questions to get, think about it. It's conversational, and some of the stuff is becoming autonomous. So, and with the human in the loop. So you can be more focused on, let's say, think about it, you can do the same job and get 10 times more. So at the end
Yeah,
of the day, companies are going to be much more, it's all about scale. You know what? It's going to bring scale. But I think at the end of the day, people should, you know, think how they can use it to scale up. At the end of the day, you can do the same job. Why not? You can serve more customers in less times. You can be much more precise. You can be much more, let's say, the quality of the stuff you're sending out. You're more focused on the business and less about the heavy lifting. So think about it. You're putting the heavy lifting to the AI, and you're now everything is more scalable, and you're just doing the better job.
it's the you're right. One of the challenges there is how do you, if you're starting out, if you're a young person who wants to get into software engineering, entry level jobs are fewer and far between, because one thing that is definitely needed is, I agree with you. You need a human in the loop. LLMs are inherently non-deterministic. It is like Forrest Gump. Now, they're like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. You need, but the pilot of these AI systems needs to be pretty experienced. Getting them that experience is, well, is difficult. I mean, growing people, growing engineers into architect, developers into engineers, right? Getting people to think at a higher level of abstraction. The whole people side of it is as you were intimating earlier, is way harder than the tech side. And what have you found? I mean, like, what have been some guiding principles that you've latched on to take people under your wing and help them grow, to see this, to take advantage of it, to think and work more like you?
Well, I'm still struggling over there to do it with people. I mean, I had the thing is, I'm trying to think. First of all, a lot of people that came for programming, it's a shift in paradigm. I mean, it's like, first of all, they need to understand the way AI works, because they're built on this concept of if then else. Everything, the way people think, at least in people that have a few years in experience, everything is built on state machine. And now you have to understand that there's a different way of doing stuff. You have to understand how to trust, where to trust and where to untrust, where you can, let the AI take control and when to take control back. So what I'm trying always to show them is, first of all, always with examples, throw them in deep water, show them, I mean, how are you going to solve it? And show them, how to think in this new way, and give them real life examples. I really believe in real life examples, and try to go in deep waters as fast as possible. This is the only way to learn. I mean, as much as I can educate them, it's theoretical. The only way is to throw them hard problems. Some of them drown, but some of them, overcome and become better. But as I said, there's no secret sauce. There's no golden rules. It's basically like an AI. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But then remember what I said. Failure is not an option. If one door closes, open the other one. If you get thrown out of the door, climb back from the window.
You don't strike me as someone who gives up easy.
No.
I, you can't. I mean, it's like my wife sometimes tells me that I can be exhausting Like you're right. I think I can be because again, we latch onto something and we pursue it and we try a number of different things and the pursuit might take a very long time. But
Exactly.
but
Never give up. I think
uh,
this is the secret. If you want a golden rule, never give up. The thing is, people give up very fast. They don't have the patience. Sometimes it takes weeks. I can think of a problem, and I hit this wall, and I said, okay, I tried this, and it didn't work, and then you have this this like it comes to pops in your mind. You're in the shower or whatever in the supermarket,
oh
and
my god,
then you have this breakthrough. But the thing is, people give up pretty fast. And especially today when everything is with AI is injected to them, with everything has been summarized, everything has been chewed up for them. People, they don't have the patience. I think maybe uh, the patience and to keep on trying. This is the only way that, this is the secret sauce, maybe.
it. I tell you, man, you said that it really got to me because my dad, my dad got me into software development. He got me into programming. When I was a kid, all I wanted was an Atari 2600. My friends had them. I just wanted to play video games. I kept on asking. Said no, 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 no. And then one day, it wasn't even my birthday. He comes home with a Commodore VIC 20, and he teaches himself how to program in BASIC. He's also a mechanical engineer, and and he gets me a subscription to Compute's Gazette magazine, which has printouts of all this basic code. And so I'm sitting there typing it all out. I had no way to store it. So if I turned the computer off, I'd lose it all. But the reason I bring it up is the first thing that he did when he got it, again, he's a mechanical engineer. He he wrote a program to automate a set of engineering computations that his colleagues were doing by hand. What would take his colleagues 2 weeks to do, he could do in 20 minutes with the code that he wrote. Now, the only big challenge, well, there were two challenges. One, he ran out of the 5K of RAM, so he had to get the 8K expansion pack. And two, he scared the bejesus out of his colleagues at the office. They did not understand. They didn't, it was showing them something that was far too scary. But that's how I got my start. So AI, it's another scary thing. Okay, fine. But we know what the principles are, right? We have to study it. We have to have enough confidence in our own ability to separate the what matters and what what doesn't. It's funny when you brought up the shower, because I
Um,
swear I solve all my most difficult challenges in the bathroom, right? I'm beating my head
um,
against the wall for a week. I mean, this actually happened. I was out at a client trying to solve a very challenging problem. And with a team, we were in a war room working, 60-hour days for a whole week. Couldn't quite get there. Came home, took a shower Saturday morning, and the key thing hit me. Wrote the code over Sunday, tested it on Monday. It worked. And this is the thing that saved my client's business. They had customers ready to walk. We saved them. We bought them another 20 years with this effort. So it's just,
awesome.
but again, you say don't give up, never give up. That's again, I go back. These are words that my father told me, and yeah, sorry, I'm getting a little emotional here because I he is still with us. He's 86. If you ask him if he's retired, he says no, I'm unemployed. I'm the same way. But about 10 years ago, 11 years ago, he had a stroke. And I dropped everything. I flew out there. I was with him, and uh he's recovered. He's had a whole series of setbacks, stroke, seizure. He broke his ribs. He got cancer. He broke his hip. He got past all of it. But right after he had a stroke, he couldn't walk. He was in a wheelchair. After about a week in rehab, they suggested that we go to a support group. for stroke survivors. So I took him there. We were sitting around a table with people who had survived strokes in many different ways. Most of them were way worse off than my father, because my father, he didn't have any cognitive damage. He was incredibly lucky. But as all of these people were sitting around and they were saying something. It came to my dad's turn. It was my dad's turn. And the first thing that he said to everybody is, never give up. And,
True.
we are, whether we want to be or not, we are more like our parents than we ever thought we would be. But I'm certainly grateful for both my parents, but especially my father, for kind of instilling in me a couple of these things. I mean, we learn early on, right? So he always said that never give up. And then every conversation I had with him in college, when we ended that call, he would tell me to stay rational. These are timeless things, right?
I mean, I can totally relate. I did the very similar path. I mean, my father purchased me a Sinclair Spectrum,
Oh yeah.
back then, and then only then the Commodore 64, and this I got playing with games, but I need to you had to learn all these commands, and at the end of the day, I think I didn't play much games, but it was really interesting what to do with it. And then I kind of left off the computers, and the next time I met with computers when I was back in the military.
Mhm.
So the thing is, I was in the space that had inventory, and people were gathering data in papers and stock counting and stuff like that. And I said, hey, there's this software computer program over here that does that. Nobody uses it. Let's work with it. Why do we have to work so hard? Why do we? He said to the college friends and said, why? Let's use the computer. No, we can't trust it. So I took by myself to study the programming language that they wrote the software. I just bought the book of it, and I tried to improve the software. And at the end of the day, I had to rewrite it. And this is how I got into computers. At the end of the day, I was lazy. I didn't want to go down and do stock counting stuff like that. I said I could be solved with software. And then, it became this big thing. Everybody came to see how how this place was computerized. And this is how I got into computers, really by mistake. It was like, I tried to solve a problem for me. I didn't want to go do the hard jobs.
Look, the best engineers are a little lazy. You want that.
Yeah.
You don't want somebody, it's like, plus it gets boring doing the same thing over and over and over again, either manually or otherwise. I mean, the only promise I have ever made to any of my people, and I will say after 26 years, I've never broken this. The only promise I make is you will not be bored.
Same here. I said I'm always looking at cutting edge. This is the thing I used to tell people that I'm going. When I interview employees, I'll tell it one thing for sure. Here, you're not going to be bored because you're always in cutting edge, and in cutting edge, at least from the software industry, you don't have anyone to ask because it's cutting edge. You have to invent the wheel yourself. It's not. There's no best practices, and that's what I think the people that worked for me really like because it wasn't boring. It wasn't this repetitive job. It wasn't like this small thing they didn't see. Everybody that worked for me, they had to deal with databases, with security, with scale, with talking to customers, feeling the pressure of something that this is of a company, something doesn't work. A lot of phone calls. They felt the pressure. It's something that most of the people that work in software don't feel. They have this army of support teams and product and QA and people that they don't see the product, they don't feel the pain, and they don't feel the success. And I think
Correct. And you're absolutely right. I mean, it can turn into kind of an open loop. I'm always advising clients, listen, expose your engineers to your customers. Let them directly feel the customers' pains and the challenges and their desires, because I haven't met any engineer who doesn't want to do good, who doesn't want to do a good job, who doesn't want to help a customer. But oftentimes they are kept insulated in the back room somewhere and surrounded by product management and support and away from customer service. And so all of these insulating layers get in the way. So what I like to do is, well, I do this myself. I mean, one of our clients, we have built the entire platform for a IoT solution. This is a very cool leak detection and prevention system. It's an electronic valve. It gets installed on the water main, and it detects leaks. It automatically turns the water off. You can manage it. It is talking to a backend platform, app, and all this stuff. So we built all of that stuff. But who touches it physically? Plumbers, outed customers. So there are many plumbers who have my cell phone, and when they run into issues, they call me directly, and that's not a waste of my time. I love that. Every call, I learn something. We feed that back into what we are doing so we can create more value, so we can smooth things out. And I do the same thing with my people. It's not these aren't hard things, right? But too often the idea is, oh, they're a developer. You got to, keep them in a closet and feed them under the door. And there are some engineers in the space who don't like to talk to customers, who you kind of have to deal with like that. We don't hire those people. I mean, they have the place, and everyone is born with certain talents and predilections, and that's all good. But if your point is to create value, how can you do that without making sure that feedback loop is there, not just for you as a leader, but for everyone in your team? I mean,
yeah, I get what you're saying. At the end of the day, that's you asked me before. I mean, how do I hire people? What type of people do I want? And this is exactly the people that they're interested in solving problems and peering people and meeting the field, being in the field and meeting the understanding. Then they can celebrate the wins, because it's not only the fall downs that they're the problem and they need to solve it. And when they have this connection, when
yes,
you're part of the product, they feel it's part of them. They think about it when they go to sleep or how to solve problems, and they feel the pain with it when it doesn't work. But when it works, and there's this when the customer is like going live and stuff like that, they're partying with everybody. It's part of them. It's part of them success.
it's
So
a
this is the people. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm totally with you. The one of our core values is take ownership. You have a challenge, you have a product, you are engaged with a customer. Take ownership of whatever that is. And I've gotten feedback that I've gotten feedback from other CEOs who we've been working with, that they tell me, AJ, why do your people seem to care more than my people? I'm like, I don't know, but I will take that as positive feedback. Thank you.
The compliment. Yeah.
No, I'll take that.
And remember, there's another thing with the challenge with people. Remember, I had this saying, and excuse my French because it's not probably good English grammar, but it's saying, if it won't be simple, it simply won't be. And the problem with engineers that they want to make it simple for their side, not for the customer. So why should I care if he has to, I don't know, move to 10 screens and do 10 configurations to make it work? I mean, from my point of view, it's good enough. And another challenge I'm always trying to tell them, look, it has to be simple. At the end of the day, you have a truck driver, sales rep, people, someone in the field that now has a lot of, an elevator is someone is stuck in the elevator. You have the technician needs to figure out what to do. It has to be simple. It has to be something that is appealing. And this is another thing, a challenge with engineers, because they want to solve the problem, but they're not thinking about the human factor. And this is another thing I try to educate my people.
Oh no, I'm totally with you there. I mean, engineers can sometimes fall into a kind of a checkbox mentality. All right, have I checked the box? Yep, got my box checked. I'm good. Are you? When are you done? Right? You're building a feature, a product, an app, whatever it might be. When are you done? How do you define that? What's the line? Right? And how do you know it's really going to kind of do that? Um, one thing that drives me nuts, and I would love to get your feedback on this, is everybody's calling themselves a full stack engineer now. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, that 100% BS. So can you do everything? Can you build front end code and back end code? Sure, I'm sure you can, but you're going to be 10 times worse at one of those and 10 times better at something else. So we're not. I mean, we have natural talents. You're not going to find all the skills and the insights and the instincts you need in one brain. It does not exist. So, like for me, front end and back end engineer, completely different. UX designer versus UX engineer, different brain pathways. You need different people in the mix. Give me your perspective on this. What are the different types of players or kind of natural intrinsic roles that you see are needed in the space to kind of bring together and launch successful products?
It depends on what time frame we're talking about, because today I'll tell you a total different story. If
Okay.
I'm
Well,
talking a few, I mean
yeah.
today I'm ashamed to say that, but today you can be a one-man show with AI that gives you the most beautiful user interfaces and the most, let's say, secured and logged and tested backends. So this whole places of front and back end. Today everything is becoming more spec driven. You have to. I mean, if you did full stack, if you know, I mean, the basics of what is a back end and what is the front end, what are the tools that are commonly used, what are the pitfalls. It's enough today to be to what we call a spec driven architecture that the AI fills the gaps. So we have to be an expert. At the end of the day, I'm trying to think. AI is this huge brains. It knows everything, but it doesn't have specialties. I mean, it doesn't have specialization in a specific niche. And over there, this is where you need to fill the gaps. If today, if you know and if you've done full stack and you know the concepts, if you can do a fully blown product, it seems like it. I don't know. It seems like it. But if you're talking 1 years ago, of course, you had at the end of the day, you had front ends, you have front end engineers, you have back end engineers, you have someone that fills in the gap. But I don't know. Today it's changed, and I told you I did something that I created a product with three different types of front ends, and of course I said, okay, this must be in HTML and JavaScript and CSS, and this
Yeah, yeah, you
should
got
be no.
spec.
You have to understand that what you're doing, but at the end of the day, I mean, it generated everything, and I know how to read what it did, and it did a pretty good job. And you know what? I told you that we did this backend system that integrates a robotic warehouse to Priority ERP system,
Yeah,
and I did it. I don't know. It took me an hour to generate the code and with the documentation, and it's in production for like I don't know, almost a year now, with zero problems. And then so I don't know. Everything is changing. I mean, as I said, it's a total different answer between a year ago and today.
yeah. No, I things are definitely changing. The so a couple of questions if before we wrap up here. So, what's your favorite uh, AI code gen LLM? What's your go-to?
Every week it changes. I
Ah,
started off with I started with the VS Code and C-line, Klein, what it's called, extension. And then I went to Windsurf, and uh, and of course, at the end of the day, Anthropic coding modules, I mean, for coding are the best. I mean, Gemini is good. There are all kind of other good ones, but Gemini are still at the top. I mean, they're leading the leaderboards in coding. So Claude Code, awesome tool, but now came anti-gravity anti-gravity from Google. So I'm trying to, do a mixture. So I'm kind of using anti-gravity because it has this huge, this great concept of this interactive agents that you can interact with the plan. It's not just generating plan running and then you just rerunning after you're giving more instructions. You're actually interaction with the plan. So it's great for the planning, and Cloud Code doing the coding. I mean, using both worlds. I mean, this is my go-to stack if you ask me today, and and I think there's a lot of heat coming now from program language. Mostly Python, but now if you want to go for scale and performance, maybe Rust. Rust is taking is becoming the best thing, the next shining tool in the box. Is that how you call it?
There's always a rotating mix.
But
Yeah.
but every week it changes. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to be agnostic, because
Yep.
I think things you couldn't do last week could be done this week with this tool. So I'm all the time learning. I'm following a lot of YouTube, people that are giving you every week what's the latest and greatest, and I'm testing it. So it's all the time using what works, but keep on testing what came out, because maybe it has something that can solve a problem that couldn't be solved before a week ago. And it's the pace is like this fast. My CEO always tells, I know what you're gonna tell me in this, this meeting. Remember what I told you last week? Forget about it. The problem is already solved this week. There's something new. This new tool, this is awesome. It solved this problem that we had last week. So this is like every week.
Well, it's you seem to be having a lot of fun. You seem to be
Yeah.
having a lot of fun with this thing. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate your perspective. I appreciate you. I look forward to meeting you one day in person. Last question for you. I believe our legacy will be measured by how well and how far we lift all those we touch. That's what I think about when I get up in the morning and I'm using whatever talents and skills that I might have and that the company has to lift up as many people as I can. That's what I believe will be our legacy. What do you want your legacy to be?
I don't know. Maybe just people will say, he did something 10, 20, 30 years ago and it's still working. But it's not.
You built something that lasts. I love that.
Yeah, but I guess it's unrealistic today. The pace of things that are changing. I mean, people. I mean, legacy people, old people like us.
Well, I am not a legacy person. I'm not gonna. No, I'm not gonna go.
Our age. I guess that around the, I don't know, 40s, 50s. Are going to remember people. We lived in the 80s, and I think it's a totally different generation now. So I don't know
You
what to expect from this generation, but it's
you
coming out.
changed that much.
Look, people. When I was outdoors, I was having fun. I was meeting friends. But there wasn't even cell phones back then. We're talking to each other.
Right.
Today, my kids, I mean, they're sitting out all day behind a computer. I mean, everything has been virtual. So we're talking about legacy. What things what are people going to remember from you? Maybe your avatar, maybe your, I don't know, Facebook profile. What are they going to remember?